ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here from Oilers Live, on for another Tuesday night podcast, live stream. This one's post-game Western Conference Final Game 1, where the Oilers lose 8-6, another 14 goals plus in a Game 1. And the Oilers on the downward end of that one again for another Game 1. This is the live stream where we complain about the refs, complain about the calls, and we talk about how the Oilers need to be better. So welcome, Mike. Welcome, Dash. Thanks for joining me. How's everybody doing tonight? Feeling good?
Well, it started not so well, but then it got a little bit better, and then it got a little bit worse. I'm all right, though.
Jeez.
And then it was okay again, and then it wasn't good. But then it was good. But then things were picking up, and yeah.
I feel like this is a "that's what she said" moment right now. This is
Let's not do those.
Yeah, no, this was a weird game. I mean, just from the Oilers, as they've done every Game 1 of every series we've had so far, just don't seem to come out on time. It seemed like they did early on with the Kane goal. I mean, I was jumping out of my seat and yelling, and then out come the Avs. And the Avs, let's be honest, the Avs dominated the first and second period of this hockey game, made it look like it was. Hey, this is. I joked about it in a tweet. I said I think I hit play on the Battle of Alberta Game 1. Somebody tell me where the Western Conference Final is playing, because this was identical to the Calgary Game 1. I mean, you couldn't have written the script any closer. I mean, the Oilers come out flat. They're down. Smith gets pulled. Koskinen comes in. Oilers come back. They just came back a little bit earlier in that one and actually tied it. But I mean, it was so reminiscent of that Game 1. The challenge will be, do you guys think the Oilers can come back and win a Game 2?
Of course we can. How is it any different than the Series 1 versus LA? A terrible start in Game 1. Smith below average game. Overwhelmed by the moment. No different than the BOA Game 1. Hang in the game and come back in Game 2 and learn how to slap them back in the mouth. Hey, we're 0-1. We're halfway to a split, boys.
I mean, Smith wasn't great, but in those first games, he was awful. But I don't think, the Oilers. I think the Oilers just flat out got outplayed. I don't think you can blame that start on Smith at all. He didn't have the 132-foot goal. He didn't have the bad play around behind the net. He wasn't letting in.
He wasn't great either.
He wasn't awful. He was. He looked a lot like the goalie in Slapshot. He was getting pummeled with the puck every 5. Every 5 seconds, and it's. Well, Dirsa, tell us about how bad Smith was, the poke check specifically, and let's talk about it.
I want to hear how Dirsa would have had the goalie every time, because he's got him as soon as he's committed on a poke check.
That's not what I said. You got a reading comprehension problem, Dash. I said if he sells out and he goes for the poke check and he doesn't get it, then I've got him, because he's opened himself up. He's committed.
Yeah.
And I said, the lazy left winger you wouldn't have him, because you'd be back on the red line trying to figure out where the goalie was.
But,
it's just a term I use to kind of, make myself fly under the radar like Maverick.
Yeah, but you can't. I mean, it's McKinnon, right? Like the guy, you give him a breakaway, and the goalie's got to do something. Might as well go for the poke check. Like, what else do you got?
It's not like it was the first breakaway of the night. Like, there were 7 of them, and he went for the poke check on 2. That's a pretty good batting average.
So he turns Nurse at the circles. It's not a lot of time left, and you show poke check. So if you don't get that poke check, he's got you 5 hole.
Well, yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
And if you don't
to
go for
me,
the poke check, he has you up high, right?
Maybe
like
maybe.
Yeah, but maybe, right? Like you got to
Right.
do something. The goalie's got to do something, and he went.
It's being aggressive
for
sure. And to me, against Nathan McKinnon, I don't know if ultra aggressive is the right play.
You know what? We can't sit and bitch all season about them playing underneath their crossbar and not being aggressive enough. And now when Mike Smith goes and sits at the top of his crease and goes for a poke check, give him shit for being too aggressive.
See, he's not used to it. You're
look at. I only hear what I want to hear, but you want to have your cake and eat it too. There's the problem.
Here's the problem that I have with it at all is Mike Smith is now against Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah.
On a 1-on-1. That's the challenge, right?
Right.
I mean, we're not talking about Kemper against Kane 1-on-1, right? We're talking McKinnon against Mike Smith. McKinnon, he's all right. I mean, he's not a bad player. I mean,
I'll say one thing. I'll say one thing. Going for that poke check, he saved his groin.
No, probably. Yeah.
Maybe that's why he did it.
Yeah, could be. All right, guys. Let's move on from that because that's one of 8. Yeah, I mean,
why did they have 8 breakaways? Maybe we should talk about that.
That's right. It's one
story of the game might be our defense.
Let's get right to it, and let's talk about the most controversial play of the game. I can give my opinion first, guys, if you want, and you can respond to it. Maybe let's do it that way. Obviously, it's this offside or non-offside. Cale Makar going in.
It wasn't offside.
15 seconds. I'll give my thought on it, and then you guys can respond. I agree, Dash. I don't think at first you look at the video replay that Simpson gave us, and that calls it offside. That every day of the week that looks offside to me. When you think about the play and you think about how you can dump it in, a guy checks as long as everybody checks on the offside. That's how the rule is. Everybody checks back and gets into the zone and then touches the puck that's not offside. And that's exactly, if you look at the other angle, you see that Makar lets go of the puck right before he crosses the blue line. The other angle, I think it's quite clear, and his feet are still on the other side of the blue line. Was it Landeskog there? Landeskog checks Nichushkin. He checks back. I don't think at first I was pissed off. I couldn't believe it, but we'd only seen Simpson. We saw the other view, but we didn't really know what we were looking for. I think at that point in time. And once we saw it, I think it was a good goal. Now, here's my other piece to that, and then I'll let you go, Dash, and then, Mike, you can talk about it. But, it's just like the Flames goal, and I said it then, I'll say it now, whether it's the Oilers, whether it's the Flames, good teams bounce back, right? Like bad calls happen in games, and I said it later on in the game. The reality check is it's a good goal if it ends up on the scoreboard, right? And you got to bounce back. The fact that we had a penalty from it, hey, you got to have a penalty kill. Your penalty killers have to be there. That goal on the power play was far too easy for Colorado. Like that should, there's I don't know how, like, you got to tighten that box up about like 10 times tighter than it was, because I mean, there was 4 guys all around him, and he's in the slot, with ample time to make his mind up. So, if you think it was a good goal or a good offside, or it was an offside, hey, all the power to you. I just think by the rule book and seeing that other play, it was, in fact, onside, and it was a good goal. And to me, that either way, that's not what decided the game. That you just have to come back from those. Dash, you go ahead.
I mean, I agree with you. So I'm not going to rehash exactly what you said. I'd maybe say it in a slightly different manner. You were saying you checked up, you tagged up, whatever, right? I think ultimately the fact of the matter was that first intermission Hockey Night in Canada panel confused the world, because when they started talking about being in possession of the puck and whether he had control, that's what set Twitter on fire. Yeah, I can't tell you how many people I replied to on Twitter and said it's not about control. It's about whether he actually touched the puck or not. And, said very briefly, the point in time that the puck crossed the blue line to the point in time that Nichushkin tagged up, Makar didn't touch the puck. So it's not offside, and that's a good goal.
And you got to point out that Makar was also onside when Nichushkin touched back too, which is important.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. When Makar touches the puck, everybody's onside. All 4 skates are on the good side of the blue line. So ultimately, it's weird. It's an anomaly. It sucks when you got to sit there and chew through those replays and watch it happen. I was right there with you. I think when there's 14 goals scored in a game, it's hard to blame one. My wife said to me, well, it's a big momentum swing. Instead of 2-2, it's 4-2. But the Avs still scored 4 goals after that. So, the Oilers scored another 4 goals after that. So I don't know. There was a game after the game there too, I think. What we all need to agree with here is what Josh, a tough call, has clarified on Twitter, is that the most important thing out of this entire moment was that we no longer call offsides.
There's they call it offsides in the US almost.
It's so hard to listen to.
Yeah. So anyway, Dirsa, your thoughts?
Well, that whole thing reminds me of when we played Carolina in 2006, and Hurricanes fans back in the day when the Edmonton Oilers had their message boards online. I was talking to a guy from Carolina, and he says, well, offsides is when your NASCAR hits the wall and the sides comes off. So I remember that. I remember that from 2006. I guess the only thing about that is I think it goes against a little bit of the spirit of the offside rule to me. Like, it wasn't clearly out of the zone and all that kind of stuff. But
so to that point, Mike, though, before you go on with that, I don't disagree, but at the same time, doesn't this say something about Makar's skill level? Like that he knew what he was doing there? I mean,
nah, man, the puck rolled on him. Don't give him that credit, Michael.
Yeah, I'm not taking the Kelly Rudy nod there either. I'm kind of with Dash. I think it's just a play where, a tenth of a second he didn't touch.
It's a split second and the puck rolled. Exactly. It's fluke, complete fluke.
And honestly, if we're getting into the control, not control thing, I think he was leading himself for his breakaway. I think that's exactly what he was doing there. And that's a skill play. But
there wasn't an Oiler within 8 feet of him. Of course you're going to push the puck ahead and skate. Unless your name's Connor McDavid, you can skate faster without the puck than with the puck.
And you know what? I don't want to rail on Mike Smith a little bit, but I think it was a great shot. But he's playing a little deep.
I think he could have had that. Yeah.
Come out of here.
He
come out of here.
Oh, he could have came out and tried to poke check him.
That's what I'm just thinking. He could have tried to do.
You know what? Maybe he already thought it was offside and kind of half-assed it. I don't know. Do you guys buy into like the notion that it takes about a period though to kind of get yourself in game acclimatized to the altitude in Denver, and that might have played a bit of a factor to their first period?
No, absolutely not.
You think being there 2 days they're good and that wasn't a thing at all?
Yeah, these guys are athletes. I don't buy into it at all. Plus, that didn't seem to be the factor. Like, to me, I thought Colorado just played the right style of game against the Oilers in the first 2 periods, and the Oilers needed to make some adjustments. There was not the Oilers were given the puck up in the first period. Like I couldn't believe how many times they gave it up the side of the boards to an Avalanche player. Like that's not a skating issue. That's just don't give it away so much.
Yeah, I'm not definitive on it one way or another, but definitely in game 2 that cannot be a factor anymore at all.
I guess we'll find out, to your point, right? I was in Denver once and was there for about a week. I'd say for the first 3 days, I yawned every 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not kidding. For the first, 24 hours I was there, but that's the first 24 hours I was there, and I'm bald and fat and overweight. So those guys, I'm sure, given the elite conditioning, I mean, we have trainers that know what they're doing. I think it's been something that's highly researched at this point in time amongst all sports leagues.
Colorado would have had a round 2 win in the last however many years if that was a factor, right? I mean, Edmonton's not the only one that's, different.
Gregor did say something about Colorado being 14-3 or 14-4 when they open at home in game 1. And he mentioned that the Oilers were 24-23 all time in game 1s. So the Oilers have just historically franchised been a slow series starter.
Yeah, just I never expected them. Dash, we talked about this off air, but I didn't expect them to win tonight. I mean, the only thing that I'd hoped for was that it was going to be a close game. The other thing I'll say is it was a highly entertaining game. Right? Like there was a lot going on both sides. We saw some great plays by McDavid and Draisaitl. Kane, that was a beauty. Pass by Nuge. Colorado, I mean, they're a hell of a good team, right? Like, to be there and to come back in this style of a game. Hey, you know what we heard going into this series? Same thing we heard going into the Calgary series is this is a team that's going to shut down the high-powered offense of the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, sure as hell they did, right?
Yeah.
Even the panel
they kept them to 6.
it, right? The panel guessed it. They said, "Don't go to sleep, folks, because it's not over," and it wasn't over.
I tweeted after the second period, "Don't sit down on this offense. This game isn't over yet, for sure." I butchered my stat. It's 22-7 when they open at home, by the way.
Yeah, it's. It is what it is. They had to come out and wake up a little bit, and maybe it is the altitude. Who knows? Whatever it is, they've got to come out and win game 2. They don't have to win game 2. I mean, but it would be a nice thing. But going home,
you expect a split on the road,
yeah.
and we're halfway to a split.
Yeah,
win the second one.
Yeah,
don't make it. Don't make it.
Do what you did in the first 2 series.
Don't make it too hard coming down 0-2.
So, I mean, the same question we asked after game 1 in Calgary. Does Mike Smith get the start in game 2?
I think it's a bit more of a question mark now, but yeah, I think he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Koskinen put up a good showing today.
Yeah, I
doesn't matter.
I think
that's his job.
I agree on this. I think that Smith, just like he's done, you got to believe he's going to come back and play a better game. All
he's done the last 2 series is prove that he can have a shitty game 1 and then be one of the best players in the series from games 2, 3, 4, 5 and on. So yeah, absolutely, Smith starts. If he doesn't, I'll.
The bigger question is, does Kemper start game 2? I think he's out.
I'll wear a camouflage hat on the next podcast if he doesn't start.
Mike might even wear a hat. Wait. No, it's there.
Does he though?
It's there. Kirk. Okay, next thing up here. Kirk's listening in on YouTube. Nathan also says, I think his words are, "Jesus Christ, boys, this is not a religious program, Nathan." Kirk.
You called?
Yeah, Kirk. Nurse had a terrible game. So did Keith. So let's talk about that because this is important, and I'm wondering what we see from Woodcroft, who I think has been a bit of a coaching genius in rounds 1 and rounds 2. But in my mind, and you guys can disagree, but I'll just mute you. Nurse was heavily outplayed. I know he's injured. We all know he's injured. He was outplayed. He looked overmatched tonight. I think when he had the puck, he looked good. Like he plays a Nurse style game. He just doesn't have the speed and or the leverage that he would have on his skates in a normal if he's not playing injured. And I think that hurt him tonight. We argued in the group chat about whether or not he should have played that puck around the net. He almost let in a goal or gave Colorado a good chance at.
I got to defend my take there.
Well, you get your chance. Let me finish. You get your chance. and I got to hit mute first before. So anyway, but Keith looked absolutely horrendous. I thought this was probably one of Keith's worst games in my mind. And
Keith only looked half as bad as Nurse.
There you go. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think of the defense? I mean, there's what's Woodcroft to do? What's Woodcroft and Manson to do going into game 2? And now
Dirsa in there.
Yeah, Dirsa, you go ahead. Defend your take all you want, but explain what your take was.
Okay, hit mute. Michael and I'll talk.
So I'll start on that. You said what was Nurse doing there, and I said he thought Mikko was Mike Smith because he thought that the goalie was going to go and play the puck behind the net. That didn't happen. It was a slow dump in, and the goalie probably should have went and grabbed it. That's normally what happens. And then they make the first play.
So Conklin and Jason Smith in 06.
So he hesitated. He didn't go. Whether he should have went or not, I think that's a different question. But you asked what was he thinking, and I know he was thinking that his goalie was going to go play the puck. I know he did. Yeah. Watch it again. He held up. And all these D are trained to Mike Smith going, stopping it, and making that first play. And it was a soft dump in. It wasn't like
Dirsa so fired up he's kicking tables.
It wasn't a hard rim.
And the other thing, in other news, Dirsa has put in his application to wash Nurse's jock after every game.
For sure. So. Already do.
He's put in his application to podcast for Oilers Nation. Beat it.
The other thing I'll say, too, is on the first goal, I didn't like the coverage there from anybody. Keith's left on a 2-on-1 by himself. A guy's trying to pick him apart for that.
Do you think he got abandoned? Bouchard was eating a hot dog with Kessel in the rafters
in Arizona.
Where the fuck was Bouchard?
He was in Arizona with Kessel. that was fucking brutal, and that was right after we scored. Like not the right time to go chasing a big hit, and guys were trying to carve Keith for that, and pile on him when it's necessary. What was it like?
Well, Keith
the sixth goal or something like that, where he like escorted the guy to the net.
Yeah.
That was fucking horrible. Like that was
Keith deserves his due share of criticism tonight,
for sure, but not on that first goal.
And only half as much as Nurse deserves.
Nurse does pirouettes so McKinnon can go and get Mike Smith to try the riverboat gamble poke check that I hated, but
well, I guess you guys point out something. I mean, the defense in total all had something. Like I think the only
Barry was good.
Well, there were a couple of Barry moments. I think Cece was all right.
Okay,
I thought Cece was all right. All right,
here, let's have it.
Nobody.
Here it is. Okay.
Kulak was the best.
Kulak, -11 on his Corsi. CC -11. Nurse -18. Keith was +1 on relative Corsi. Barry was +7.5. So there you go. My eye test was right. According to that, Barry was in control and possession. He's the only one that had a Corsi over 50%. Nurse by far had the worst, -18 relative. He had chances for were 8 and 22 against.
How much
Nurse?
of Barry's Corsi was helped by the final 3 minutes of the game?
And the power play, but yeah.
Well, I don't think they count it in power play.
I have it on all. It's not. I don't have it on 5v5.
Okay. Neil on YouTube says Kulak was decent. Bryce says that was a BS offside goal. Bryce, you have to watch the first 5 minutes. Okay, I mean the defense wasn't good enough. Let's now. What do you guys think? Like, was the third period about Colorado sitting back, or did the Oilers make some adjustments?
I think scoring that first goal kind of gave us some life and shift in momentum more than anything.
Maybe they adjusted to the altitude.
The only adjustments we made is we'd score and they'd punch us right back in the mouth.
That was most of the game.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying, Dirsa. Like, what adjustments got made? We'd score, they'd punch back.
Until the third period when we started to push it the other way. Like they were up 7.
And that's what because they didn't punch back. You think they were sitting back? I don't know.
We were up 7-4. I mean, they were up 7-4. So we pushed back.
Yeah, it was a good pushback at the end for sure. But yeah, I mean, to Dash's point, I mean, you have to score one and defend the puck a little bit. What did you guys think about? Like it felt like, and you got, I think, natural stat trick on up in front of you, Dash. Mm-hmm. Like, how much time did the fourth line get today for Edmonton? It felt like a lot. It felt like I was seeing Cassian and Archibald out there a ton.
619 together. 619 together. The line was 42 Corsi, -2 relative. They gave up 8 scoring chances and had 2. But none of the lines were great, other than unbelievable was, the McLeod, Fogle and Puljujarvi line pushed the river the entire time. If you look at the chances for and against, they actually equaled the McDavid, Draisaitl, King combination in the same amount of time. They had 6.5 minutes,
and driven by McLeod. I might say, like the other two were right there, but McLeod really pushed that line.
I don't want to rattle on about stats, but every line was within 40 to 60 in Corsi, and relative was right around even, except for the Fogle, McLeod, Puljujarvi line had 6 minutes and 37 seconds together. They had 13 chances for and 5 against. They had a 72% Corsi, a 32% relative Corsi, 5 high dangers and 1 high danger against. So they dominated their ice time.
Dash, does that give you like a shift time breakdown? Because I'm wondering does Puljujarvi like go off 10 seconds ahead of everybody?
Yeah, you'd have to. There's a little shift area where it gives you a graph. You'd have to look at a shift chart.
I'm just seeing.
It's not easy to tell. If you got plays in mind, then. But I do find Puljujarvi is the first one off typically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been the case for a while.
I'm just seeing him having about a minute less, actually a minute and change less ice time than Fogle. So
to me, that always felt like it was Puljujarvi driven. Like he, he's just maybe a little bit more responsible on the line changes.
Yeah.
Doesn't want a bad change.
And it could be driven into him because he had moments, I think, early in the season where he was getting caught out there, right? And
overextending.
Yeah, and so I think maybe they're monitoring that a little bit, or he is, self-monitoring. Who knows?
Yeah, Jesse Puljujarvi had 2 short shifts, 2 long shifts, 1 extra short, 1 extra long. His average was 32 seconds a shift, and McLeod's was 34 seconds, and Fogle's was 33 seconds. So all right, bang on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that line was great. I thought, I thought McDavid. I think even Garrity said on YouTube, he said 97 had a bad start. I don't know if I felt like McDavid had a bad start so much as Colorado played him tough in the first part of the game. And you could. It was at that moment where, and we can talk about the officiating. We're not talking about the offside anymore. But it was at that moment where I knew the whistles were gone for the night. Like they, I was
non-offside. You mean?
Yeah, yeah, whatever you want to call it. There were a couple of calls throughout the night. I thought it was pretty evenly officiated. You guys?
I'm not upset with the officiating.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I joked with Laurie that the Oilers Twitter is absolutely on tire fire, insane hatred to have referees murdered. And while I'm reading that, the entire crowd has gone through 5 different ref you suck chants in the Colorado. So, I mean, when you're pissing both sides off, I think you've
called a good game.
I was going to say that, but I stopped myself. You at least called an even game.
Or not called a good game, but at least you were fair.
So I got to ask you guys, because I felt like this was a playoff style called game. Did you appreciate it, or would you prefer that they called some of the, like, it was funny when they were on the Oilers were on the power play and they were saying, watch the pick, guys. And then they called a pick, like a really soft pick, I thought, on McDavid. I thought we got a nice call on that one. And then, but I thought Colorado was doing that all night as well. So
I just think it was going both ways on everything. Like, who had that breakaway from Colorado where CC got back and he kind of got his hands hooked around and got it in? Like, that's a hooking call, if not a penalty shot in the regular season all day long. So I just thought it went both ways.
Yeah, I mean,
Plain
I
and
felt
simple.
it was fair. I felt like there were calls missed on both sides. But but how do you feel? Like, do you feel like you'd rather see that kind of officiating, or do you want to see them call that and get rid of that?
Doesn't matter what I want. It's never going to change. They're not going to have as many things called in the playoffs.
It matters to me, Dash. It matters to me.
Guys try 10 times harder. So if you're going to try 10 times harder, there's going to be 10 times more infractions. They're never going to have an NHL where special teams are playing 40 of the 60 minutes. It's just not going to happen. And that's the only way that you'd literally be calling a penalty every 30 seconds. You'd only need 2 lines.
You got to figure they'd adjust.
The only thing I did.
Well, they do. That's how they game manage, and there's only this called. That is how they adjust.
Not the officials, the players. I think the players adjust.
The only thing I didn't like is when we were on the power play and Connor had a stick in his armpit for about 15 seconds and no hook call there because we were already on the power. We were already on the power play, so they weren't going to give us a 5-on-3. That's about the only thing I didn't really like.
Kane McKinnon for about 15 seconds the next shift after that, if you notice.
Perfect.
Well, we don't notice those ones, Dash, and screw you for even mentioning it.
I thought you said you cared about my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought there was
wishy-wash podcast. This is.
I thought there was so much room out there tonight. Like, it was really, really open that there wasn't really a lot to be called anyway.
Yeah, 14 goals.
Yeah, it was pond hockey.
It was pond hockey.
It wasn't a trap game.
No,
it wasn't. I go back to this. Going into the series, there were a lot of, experts that said, the Oilers aren't going to continue to do what they're doing, right? And to me, this tells us, we knew Colorado was capable. But the question that everybody said was, with Makar and Taves back there, can the Oilers do it? And we proved to them that we can. And to me, that you go into Game 2, and the Avs, and let's assume that Kemper's out for Game 2, because I think he is. But the Avs are going in with their backup, a guy that hasn't seen a ton of time. It's got to be on their mind. Right? Like, already McDavid's on everybody's mind. Now you got a guy, like a team that really came back from like a 7-4 game to make it a game. This to me plays well into the Oilers game plan. And I'm gonna put it out there. I think they planned on losing this one. No, I'm kidding.
Didn't Kemper remind you a little bit of Markstrom there too? Like, giving up a lot on not very much in that. Like,
we knew though that Kemper wasn't going to be like.
As soon as Kane beat him on the glove hand, he looked like Markstrom.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was
these guys could score goals.
Yeah. Well, the biggest question for me is, can Smith bounce back again? Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I
did it the last 2 series, Michael. What is he giving you any impression that he can't?
Well, I mean, Carolina never lost a game at home until they did. Right? Yeah. I mean, it's just
paging Justin Williams. Paging Justin Williams.
I mean, that.
Where's Mr. Game 7 when you need him?
Oh man. Well, they had to score a few more goals in order to Justin Williams to be.
Hey, he's usually good for 4 in a Game 7.
Yeah, I mean, and Kreider, Man, we haven't. We're not talking about that series tonight. We're talking about the Western Conference Final.
We are no Mark Spectors over here.
No,
no. Reel the ship back in.
Reel it in.
Did you say ship?
Yeah. You guys are out of hand.
Or shit, whatever you want.
All right. Guys, we're gonna wind this one down. It's gonna be a short one tonight because there's not really a lot to talk about. The Oilers had to be better. They had 2 periods of play where they just weren't good enough. They started to show up in the third. I don't even know if the Oilers needed to be better. They needed to adjust, right? Like they clearly weren't prepared for Colorado, the style of game Colorado plays, versus like they're unlike any other team that we've played. They're not like LA. They're not like Calgary. They're better. They don't make as many mistakes. They're better up and down the lineup. They're faster on their top guys. Cale Makar, is
all we did is score 6.
And all we did is score 6, but they still have to be better in the first 2 periods, right? Like they got
Makar is a beast. Sorry to cut you off. It's crazy because it was something I was watching for before the game, or I was thinking about watching before the game and watched for during the game was, they talk about how much of a possession defenseman he is. And it's funny because Cale Makar is Cale Makar, and, that's great. He's the only defenseman in the NHL that's a point a game defenseman over the last 3 seasons, and he deserves all the credit he gets. But you still have to defend Connor McDavid. And that's a one of a kind person to defend. And so it's one thing to carry the puck up the ice and be in possession and, ramp up your Corsi and your Fenwick because you got the puck. But what happens when you're below your own hash marks and those boys are cycling on you, right? Like I didn't see that happen a lot. Can we make them do that this series, right? I think if we're going to just let them just get the puck and get it out of their end and have those quick transitions, then it's going to be tough for us. But I think if we can start to make life hard on their defensemen and really start to make it physical and hard for Makar to get the puck in the possession and the board battles to go and take it up the ice, then we're going to see him trying to defend cycles a lot more. And I think then maybe we can, I don't want to say expose their defense because they have excellent defense, but really their best defensemen are offensive. Makar ever been called a shutdown defenseman?
I'll take the Calgary game 1 as the Oilers coming back and scoring 6 as having the same effect, which is in game 1 versus Calgary, the Calgary offense played a big part in the rush. And then the Oilers score 6 goals, and they realize, well, maybe we can't play that big a part in the rush, and they sit back a little bit more, and it changes the offensive strategy of the team. And I think that plays mentally on those defensemen, right? Like they think, well, now I gotta be a little bit careful, right? And and that's I think that's what took Calgary out of that series, if you ask me. Is the whole secret to their offense was how important a part the defense played in rushing the puck. And then the Oilers come out and score 6. Yeah, you're going to sit back a little bit. I mean, anybody would, right? I'd sit back. You don't want to be beat for that game-tying goal, right? And then as soon as you change that little aspect of your game, your offense changes. And I think, we might see a little bit of that in game 2. I hope we see a little bit of that in game 2. And go ahead, Dirsa, what you got? You got something on your mind.
Yeah, for sure. What needs to get out of our game is kind of the unforced errors. If we can crack down on that, I think we'll be in good shape. Just decision making. You take a lead, and then your next decision is to abandon ship and go for a big hit, and all of a sudden you get them into the game and you get their crowd going and that kind of stuff. Just got to play a little bit smarter. That's all. The old man saying, instead of working harder, just work smarter.
No less than half of our defensemen drank or slammed back a 6-pack of Confusion because they were over the legal limit of that and trying to figure out where the hell they should be instead of where they were. So
intoxicated on stupid.
Yeah, something, man. It was weird.
What do you do about our fourth line? I mean, I still think it's 6 minutes, although I'm surprised it felt like they were out there a lot longer. I felt like they were heavily outmatched by the Colorado fourth line. Like there was no, Cassian had a breakaway, which the only people that were surprised he didn't score were in Colorado.
Him and Todd Marchand are the only guys that weren't.
That's right.
That were expecting him to score.
That's right. Marchand was there cheering him on. Oh man.
They had bad numbers, bad eye test. You don't want to crack a winning lineup, and we had won 4 in a row previous. So maybe now this is our time to have a look at Holloway. I mean, if we're going to be running a track meet versus the Avalanche and, it's going to be skill on skill, like the coaches look like they want to do, then I'd honestly rather see somebody like that on that fourth line or mixed in at least.
Yeah. My concern with Holloway has been exactly this, is the only way we see Holloway is if something's gone wrong with the game plan, right?
I think,
but maybe
Archibald is going wrong. Archibald is part of the game plan that's going wrong. He's the only one that is consistently bad on the eye test and statistically. And if he's going to have 10 hits a game like he did in game 3 or whatever it was versus LA, then fine. But he had 10 hits the entire series in the Battle of Alberta, and that's not what we have him for. Like, we need him to be an absolute wrecking ball if he is going to have that physical presence in order to make up for his lack of defensive structure, which has always been missing. What I like at least about Holloway or one of those other guys that might be able to step in is at least you have that offensive upside, and you can't, so what if Holloway makes a rookie mistake? It's it's the same type of Archibald mistake anyways. Like, call it an Archie mistake instead of a rookie mistake.
Mike?
I kind of think that, Archibald, when he has those games where he has 10 hits, out of those 10 hits, how many of those hits actually occur after the defenseman's actually played the puck? So he's already out of position just to make that hit. So it's kind of a catch-22. I mean, you want him to play physical because basically that's all he can give you. But when he does that, he puts himself out of position. So how much do you really lose by replacing, Dylan Holloway with Archibald on that front? I'm sure he'll, in that game where Archibald maybe delivers 10 hits, Holloway probably gets 6 of them, and they're smarter hits, because he can get there quicker.
Well, and if you leave Archibald at home, can you not fly direct?
Right. There you go.
Well, actually, I don't think they would anyway, right? Because the whole point is if somebody tests positive for a little bit of a head cold, you don't.
And they don't have to.
Yeah. So I don't think they would anyway. So the shot at Archibald there, but
why can't they test in Edmonton, board a plane, and fly directly to Denver? That doesn't make any sense to me. But
well, they have to test, right? If they and so this way they don't have to test.
You don't have to test when you drive over.
And the reality is it could be Draisaitl that tests positive, right? Like right. And he could test positive and just have a snotty nose, right? But and be able to play. I think they're beyond worried about not beyond. What's the wording I'm trying to say? Flurry. They
easy for you to say.
Yeah, easy for me to say. Oh man! All right, it's getting late here in Halifax tonight.
As we talk about hits, though, I just need to point out that McDavid had 5 tonight, and as did Archibald, as did Kane, and the leader was Fogle with 6. So that's just another night where McDavid not only led our team in points but in hits as well.
Yeah, he's been a leader this year. There's no doubt, right? He also took the scoring lead away from Draisaitl tonight. I don't know if you guys saw that.
And Draisaitl stopped his streak of 3-point games.
That's right. Yeah, no more Calgary to play. Yeah. All right, guys. I mean, we could beat this one down, but this is a tale of two bad periods and one half decent one, and just not being good enough. I don't whatever side you are on the offside, I just feel like, look, that kind of a call goes either way in any game. You look at the Calgary series, right? Like, I probably would have called that a goal, that Coleman goal. It just these things happen, and Edmonton in one of those games had 2 goals disallowed. They came back and they scored and they won that game. That's how good teams come back. They have to overcome bad calls. The only time where a bad call to me is something worth really getting on about is when it happens in the final seconds of the game itself.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's not like that happened in the last 5 minutes of the third period either. They had lots of time to recover from that, so it's not even an issue.
Yeah,
not for me.
It becomes a non-issue, especially when at one point Neil on YouTube says, "I thought you were a Hummer, Michael." Correctly spelled, I might add. Yeah.
He certainly is, Neil. He certainly is.
You have no idea. You have no idea. Yeah. So this is just the way it goes, right? I mean, the team's got to bounce back like they've done in round 1 and round 2, and I think we'll see Smith come back. I didn't hear his post game, but I'll probably listen to it after the show tonight. My guess is he says what he said every other time. I got to be better, and he knows it. And
he will be.
And the players, I think he's earned the respect of the players that he can come back and play a good game after that. And it was nice to see Koskinen come in and make some key saves. To me, that was a bit of a win too. But a series isn't won on moral victories. They got to win 4. They got to start on Thursday night. So, Dirsa, we're going to give you the word, and then we're going to finish it off with Dash tonight, who gets the last word tonight. You go ahead, Dirsa.
Yeah, so, kind of, it's almost like the Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Well, we got punched in the mouth again, although we did score the first goal, so we kind of got off on the right foot, but let them come back right away. So you drop that game, go to bed tonight, think about it tomorrow, and Thursday's a new day. Try to get a win and come home to Edmonton, all squared at 1, and it's a new series again. Pressure's on us now, I guess you would say, but for a start on the road, I guess that's not the worst way it could have went. It could have been easily a blowout, but they didn't let it get to be that way, and fought back to make a game of it, and had a chance to tie it up late. 45 seconds left to go is more time than what they thought. When Barry got that puck, I think there was about 22 seconds left to go, and I thought he hurried it a little bit.
I totally forgot about that. There was a chance there for Barry to pass it back.
Yeah.
Instead, he gives the weak backhand towards the
net. They rushed it a little bit, but I when you're in that situation, you don't think you have as much time as you do.
Yeah, fair enough.
You kind of lose your composure, and I guess it's better to be ahead then and not be in that position at all. But Colorado gets an empty net goal, gets the win, and they got the lead in the series. So now it's up to us to try to match. And
speaking about positions you don't want to be in, how about getting hit with a Bouchard slap shot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was who was that? Burkowski.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. Jeez.
Maybe you should do these podcasts at 3 a.m, Michael. It's a little early for you.
Yeah. And then it's like Sensei Kreese on Karate Kid, No Mercy, because he kept shooting after that, and they scored.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh jeez. And Bush. Yeah. Yeah. You know what, guys? I mean, that's
I love how he has no sympathy and doesn't stop.
He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. All right. Before Dash shuts us down for the night, I'll just say, please, if you tuned in tonight, and it looks like we had lots of folks across all the platforms, please go to youtube.ca/heavyhockey and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, do all those things that help us grow the show. We'll be back. I think if the guys are up for it, I'd like to do a post game almost after every game this series as we get into this final rounds here. And we'll go from there. What else? If you got a chance, check out heavyhockey.com. Some of the guys have worked hard on contributing some articles. Kirk gave us a series recap and an outlook on this Avs series. And there's going to be new stuff coming up every day as well. Check out heavyhockeygear.com. Check out some of the hats. I've got on order my the heavy hockey hat flat bill, so that one, looking forward to getting that one. Looks pretty hot. And that's it for me. Now I'm going to pass it off to Dash, who gets the last word. He knows the drill. I put myself on mute. It's one of the few times, the time that everybody loves the most. Here we go, Dash. Take it away.
The only time on Oilers Live where we're guaranteed to be able to speak when the host can't. I understand he has a bit of a reputation for not letting his guests speak, but I'll tell you what, I get to say my piece, and I get to do it a lot. I've actually, over the Battle of Alberta, while all these records are being broken, I broke one myself and took over Eric Friesen's spot for the most appearances on Oilers Live over the history. So I'd just like to give myself a little credit for that. Clearly, Michael knows when to bring in the big guest for the big games. All right, so let's say this, boys and girls and Oilers fans everywhere. This is okay. We lost. It's all right. We did it in the first two series. Like I said earlier, the Oilers have actually been 500 over games ones in their entire history. And look at the banners flying in the arena. So we'll be just fine. But take a step back. Don't worry about referees. Don't worry about missed calls. Don't worry about offsides. Don't worry about debating on Twitter. Take a breath and actually just take in what we're experiencing. This isn't just the playoffs, and this isn't just the Oilers in the playoffs. This is one of the most unbelievable playoff runs we are ever going to see. I've got a 2-year-old, and if you want to go by history, it's been 16 years since we've been to a conference final. It's been 32 years since we played the Calgary Flames in the playoffs. Is my son going to be graduating high school the next time that we're in a conference final? Is he going to be 34 years old the next time we play the Flames? Soak in what we've got here. We've got guys breaking records. We've got McDavid with consecutive point games and, 1 point against the Flames in Game 5, and he just smashed more records because he did it again tonight. We've got Draisaitl with consecutive 3-point games. We've got Kane with 13 goals in 13 games. We're just seeing absolutely unbelievable things. Speaking of, Connor McDavid has 149 points this season, playoffs and regular season combined. He got 150. That was pregame. He has 152 now. The last player to score 150 points combined in the regular season and the playoffs was when Mario Lemieux did it in 1995-96, and it's because he got 161 points in the regular season. Now he got 20-some in the postseason too, but this is unbelievable. No two players have ever had this many points at this point in this postseason together. Everybody, take a breath, crack a beer, crack a Coca-Cola, lay back, chill, enjoy this, remember it. And honestly, it'll be one of the best things that you'll remember for a long time. We'll be talking about this hockey for a long time. Good night, everybody.